Good evening, you're watching the news from the CYBC in Nicosia. The United Nations force in Cyprus was all through today putting the final touches on the arrangements for tomorrow's scheduled meeting between the leaders of the two communities on the island, President of the Republic Talat Papadopoulos and Turkish Cypriot leader Mehmet Ali Talat. A relevant meeting was also held at the Presidential Palace between Papadopoulos and the UN Secretary General's Special Representative in Cyprus, with Michael Muller saying afterwards that the objective was to prepare the ground for tomorrow. He also stressed that everything is fine and that he's optimistic, as always, about the outcome of tomorrow's meeting. The leaders of the two communities in Cyprus will be meeting at 4 p.m. inside the UN-controlled Nicosia International Airport Zone, with their agenda being the July 8, 2006 agreement and how this can be implemented. A hard and fast commitment to the implementation of the July 8 agreement was reiterated last night by the island's National Council, following a 2-hour session held in view of tomorrow's scheduled meeting between the leaders of the two communities in Cyprus. As announced after the session by the government spokesman, President of the Republic, Talat Papadopoulos, briefed the Council members on the progress of efforts towards the implementation of the agreed-upon process, and also gave his own assessment of prospects towards the advancement of the agreement, to which Vasilis Balmas added, "Our side remains dedicated and committed." The government spokesman also said that the National Council members were given the opportunity to expound on their respective positions, even though he avoided answering a question on whether or not the issue was raised of President Papadopoulos being given a mandate to seek reconfirmation that the goal of any negotiations will be a bizonal, bicommunal federation. Greek Cypriot political parties, meanwhile, are appearing reserved over tomorrow's meeting, with leaders and representatives all offering their respective positionings, specifically and seeking to point out that statements from Turkish and pseudo-state officials do not allow for optimism. Agal parliamentary spokesman Nikos Gatsoulidis noted that the Greek Cypriot side is going to tomorrow's meeting in a spirit of goodwill and wished the same of the Turkish side, so that practical ways to implement the July 8 agreement be found. VC Deputy Press Spokesman Haris Georgiadis also pointed out that President Papadopoulos is going to the meeting in a spirit of goodwill and wished for the same to be exhibited by the Turkish Cypriot leader, with tomorrow's meeting, despite its open agenda, possibly serving as a new beginning for the implementation of the July 8 agreement. Ruling Vigo chairman Marios Garoyan, meanwhile, voiced the hope that the Turkish Cypriot side will assume a positive stance and not try to nullify the existing agreement, even though he also said that indications to date do not allow for optimism. Should the Turkish side, he continued, behave maturely and prudently, then positive prospects will arise. Its actions, however, indicate that its ultimate goal is a return to the Annan Plan. At the same time, government partner EDEC chairman Yanagi Zomiru said that one thing is certain: President Papadopoulos is going to the meeting with an honest political will and desire for progress, and one can only hope Mehmet Ali Talat will do the same. We hope, he added, that Talat does not insist on his constantly expressed positions and that he will not attempt to disengage himself from the agreement. As for the island's two smaller parliamentary parties, European Party Chairman Dimitris Tsilouris appeared convinced that the Turkish side will try to torpedo the agreement, saying that Turkey is looking towards an Annan Plan-based solution, and that as long as she sees Cypriot politicians supporting the said plan, she is not about to change her stance. For this reason, he concluded, she'll be instructing Talat to torpedo the July 8 agreement. On the part of the Greens, meanwhile, MP Yorgos Berdigis said that the movement's predictions are inauspicious and voiced the opinion that Mehmet Ali Talat will attempt to table more items for discussion. In closing, the Greens MP also advised caution, given that, as he said, the Greek Cypriot side has made many concessions and there's no room for more. Good evening, you're watching the news from the CYBC. President Papadopoulos and the Turkish Cypriot leader Mehmet Ali Talat are still meeting at the residence of the UN Chief Special Representative in Cyprus, Michael Muller, 14 months after the July 8 agreement. The meeting began at around 4:15, and the goal is to find ways of implementing the agreement, which is currently inactive. The first to arrive at Mr. Muller's residence was President Papadopoulos, accompanied by the head of his diplomatic office, Ambassador Dassos Jonis. He was welcomed by Mr. Muller at the entrance. Then Mehmet Ali Talat arrived, accompanied by his advisor, Rashid Pertev. Also present at the talks are those taking minutes. The meeting is being covered by more than 80 journalists and camera crews from Greek Cypriot, Turkish Cypriot and foreign TV channels and print media. Earlier, British Foreign Minister David Miliband had expressed the hope that there will be real progress in today's Papadopoulos Talat meeting and determination towards reaching a settlement of the Cyprus issue. Mr Miliband, on an official visit to Turkey, was speaking at a joint press conference with his Turkish counterpart, Ali Babacan. They discussed the Cyprus issue and Turkey's EU accession course. The British Foreign Minister was asked whether the government will fulfil the commitments undertaken by former Prime Minister Tony Blair on the direct trade issue, as well as the matter of direct flights from the occupied territories. He assured that London always honours its commitments, but only if they lie within the scope of international law. These, he added, are the constraints London has in its room for manoeuvres.
Good evening, you're watching the news from the CYBC in Nicosia. President Papadopoulos suggested a new meeting with the Turkish Cypriot leader Mehmet Ali Talat next Monday or in October, after he returns from the UN General Assembly meeting in New York. However, as government spokesman Vasilis Balmas told our station, Mr. Talat declined, saying that he did not want to be committed to a particular date. He did, though, commit himself to a new meeting being held and said that he will be in contact with the UN Special Representative in Cyprus, Michael Moller, to schedule such a meeting. There were mixed reactions from the political leadership to yesterday's Papadopoulos Talat meeting. AGEL press spokesman Andros Gyprianou said that the messages that came out of the meeting were not those expected and warned of the danger that the deadlock will be solidified. Mr. Gyprianou noted that what's important now is to insist on implementing a procedure based on the July 8th agreement, adding that neither side should engage in tactical games. Presidential candidate Ioannis Kassoulidis said that he has asked the President of the Republic to brief him on the meeting and therefore cannot extensively comment on the result. He did say, however, that what needs to be done is to once again create the conditions internationally that will not allow the Turkish side to back off from what it agreed on July the 8th. Legal President Marios Garoyan said that the results of yesterday's meeting were not those desired by our side, and as anticipated, there were no spectacular developments, if one takes into account the behaviour of the Turkish side all this time. There was neither agreement, Mr. Garoyan said, but no disaster either. EDEC leader Yanagi Zomiru said that yesterday's meeting confirmed that the only goal envisaged by Turkey and the Turkish Cypriot side is to upgrade the status of the pseudo-state and not achieve a settlement. European Party leader Dimitris Silouris said that the Turkish side's negative stance is evident, adding that President Papadopoulos tried his best to create political movement on the Cyprus issue. The Green Party expressed disappointment on the failure of the Papadopoulos Talat meeting. Green Party Deputy Yorgos Berdikis said that the occupation leader, following Ankara's instructions, clearly avoided agreement on the implementation of the July 8th procedure. Presidential candidate Kostas Themistokleos reiterated his suggestion on direct negotiations between the leaders of the two communities under the auspices of the United Nations. It is obvious, he claimed, that the July 8th procedure has run its course.